Ancient Egypt, one of the most powerful civilizations of the Bronze Age. Conqueror of Nubia, breadbasket of the known world. Land of great wealth and beauty. Tamer of the Nile River, and builder of great monuments and temples that reach the heavens. Mother of civilization, and great wanderer of the world. But even this mighty kingdom nearly fell to ruin had it not been by the power and blessings of the Most High Hashem through a Hebrew man named Joseph. Shalom and welcome. This episode will cover the life of Joseph. Our goal is to figure out which dynasty and kingdom of Egypt was Joseph a part of. Also, our goal is to figure out the biology of the Egyptians and early Hebrews of this period. Our final goal is to see what modern human populations share similar genetic ancestry to populations living in Egypt during the dynasty and period of Joseph. Now let's touch on phenotype. What did Joseph, Asenath, Manasseh, and Ephraim look like? Let's begin with Joseph. But before we begin, I made a video titled From Shem to Abraham. What did Proto-Semites look like? This video details the likely phenotype of Joseph's ancestors. I'll briefly summarize this video, but all my sources are quoted in that video. So check it out before watching this one if you want context for what I'm about to say. With that being said, let's begin. According to the genealogy, Joseph descends from Shem. This gives us an idea how Joseph may have looked, because according to early Jewish, Christian, and Muslim sources, Shem produced dark-skinned people, ranging in skin tones from light brown and medium brown, dark brown, and even black. According to Pirkei Rabbi Eliezer, Noah blessed his sons and his grandsons, and he blessed them with their several settlements, and he gave them as an inheritance all the earth. He blessed Shem and his sons, black but commonly, and he gave them the inhabitable earth. The Persian historian Tabri quotes Ibn Abbas as saying, "Born to Noah were Shem, whose descendants' colors are a black complexion with a light brownish undertone and a dark blackish brown." Bar Hebraicus speaks of Noah dividing the world among his sons, Shem, the land of the Browns. And according to the book titled The History of the Messengers and Kings, it reads, "The children of Shem settled in the center of the earth, which is between Satmah and the sea, and between Yemen and Syria. Allah made the prophets from them, revealed the books to them, made them beautiful, gave them a black complexion, luminous and free of blemish." So early Jewish, Christian, and Muslim sources all state that Shem's descendants were light brown, medium brown, dark brown, and even black. But now let's take an academic approach. According to academia, Natufians are the ancestors of Semites. Natufians have been described as looking like sub-Saharan Africans, Negroid, and in between Niger-Congo and Northeast Africans. As a matter of fact, Natufians likely resembled their Ibero-Mauritian cousins, and Ibero-Mauritians resembled Kifians. In the past, most human populations were dark-skinned, whether it was in Europe, such as the British Isles with Chatterban, or Scandinavia. Even Proto-Indo-European Yamnaya were intermediate brown and dark to black-skinned. The Proto-Indo-European Yamnaya were not pale-skinned. Pale skin only existed at 1.8% 7,000 years ago, according to Lazarus' 2022 paper. According to the paper titled Supplementary Materials for a Genetic Probe into the Ancient and Medieval History of Southern Europe and West Asia, as you can see in the yellow box, Russia Myacope cluster, Russia steppe Myacope, Russia Yamnaya cluster, etc. All of those are Proto-Indo-European populations, the earliest, the first Indo-Europeans. And in the red box, you should see percentages that say dark hair, light hair, black hair, blonde hair, brown hair, red hair, blue eyes, brown eyes, dark skin, dark to black skin, intermediate, and pale skin. When it comes to the first Proto-Indo-Europeans, they have zero pale skin, as you can see. Proto-Indo-Europeans, the earliest Indo-European people, were not pale skinned. Proto-Indo-Europeans either would have had dark skin, dark to black skin, or intermediate skin. Proto-Indo-Europeans also would have typically had dark hair, black hair, and brown hair. They only would have had around 20% of light hair, but 0% blonde hair and 0% red hair. As for the eye color, they typically would have had brown eyes compared to blue eyes. So with that being said, Proto-Indo-Europeans, the first Indo-European people, would have typically been dark featured, having dark skin, dark eyes, and dark hair. With that being said, everyone's ancestors, even the ancestors of Indo-Europeans, was dark-skinned 7,000 years ago. That means the question we have to ask ourselves is this: did Joseph's ancestors remain dark-skinned? And did Joseph himself remain dark-skinned? I believe they did. First off, Joseph's oldest and closest ethnic relatives are Jokdanites. Jokdan is the son of Eber, and Jokdan was the brother of Peleg. Peleg is whom Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob would descend from. Jokdan descendants settled South Arabia. Jokdanites and South Arabians have typically been described as looking like Hamites, East Africans such as Abyssinians, Ethiopians, and Somali, even Dravidians and Negroid. This is actually very similar to how anthropologists describe Proto-Semites in Mesopotamia. Early Semitic remains found at Kish in Mesopotamia were said to look like East Africans or the browner Africans, which are often described as looking Negroid. But interestingly enough, looking at the artwork and the ways ancient Semites in Mesopotamia depicted themselves gives an interesting perspective. These ancient Semites depicted themselves with dark skin, ranging from medium brown to dark brown and even black. Joseph's ancestor Abraham could have looked like these depictions of Semites in Mesopotamia. But let's go further than this. Abraham was said to be from Ur of the Chaldeans. If Abraham looked like a Chaldean, Chaldeans were described as looking like Cushites, Ethiopians, Hamites, etc. This is a depiction of 3 Chaldeans by Greeks. Clearly they are dark-skinned, specifically dark brown. Their hair is also thick and dark, and their eyes are dark. But perhaps the most interesting parallel to Chaldeans is with the Elamites. The Elamites are another Semitic people said to descend from Shem, son of Eber. Historians have said that Elamites and Chaldeans resemble each other and are from the same race. It seems like they do share some resemblance, both being dark-skinned. They also clearly are depicted with dark brown skin, dark hair, and dark eyes. Elamites in their own right are a very interesting group. As I stated, they are descendants of Shem. The Elamites are also described as looking like Cushites, Negroid, and African. Clearly they are depicted with dark brown skin and thick dark hair and dark eyes. Interestingly enough, the Elamites are located in Iran. Iran in ancient times, according to Lazarus' 2022 paper, states that Iran had intermediate brown and dark to black skin. Only 5.9% was pale skin. Ancient Iran had 95% dark hair, but only 5% light hair. They had 62.5% black hair, but 0% blonde hair, 37.5% brown hair, but 0% red hair, 2.5% blue eyes, but 97.5% brown eyes, 42.5% dark skin, 17.5% dark to black skin, and 40% intermediate skin. but 0% pale skin. And here are more populations of Iran in the yellow box and the red box. And you can pause to read the percentages, but basically most of ancient Iran had dark hair, black hair, brown hair, and they also had brown eyes, dark skin, dark to black skin, and intermediate skin. So Lazarus' paper actually matches perfectly with the depiction of the ancient Elamites. But returning to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, some people believe that they came from Syria or Anatolia. Definitely the wives of Isaac and Jacob came from Syria. But even these populations were very dark-skinned according to Greeks and Arabs. The Egyptians depicted 2 Bedouins from Syria, and the Assyrians depicted very dark-skinned Aramaeans as well. According to Lazarus' 2022 paper, the people in Syria, Anatolia, Turkey, and even Armenia were not pale. These populations were intermediate brown and dark to black skinned. And as you can see in the paper in the yellow box and the red box, Anatolia had 79.0% dark hair, but they only had 21.0% light hair, 34.6% black hair, but only 1.2% blonde hair, 64.2% brown hair, but 0% red hair, 6.2% blue eyes, but 93.8% brown eyes. They had dark skin at 18.5%, dark to black skin at 13.6%, and intermediate skin at 67.9%, but 0 pale skin. And again, that was Anatolia. Now for Armenia, they have majority dark hair, but less light hair, majority black hair, but less blonde hair, majority brown hair, but 0 red hair, and 0 blue eyes, and 100% brown eyes. They have majority of dark hair and a majority of dark to black skin and a majority of intermediate skin, but 0% pale skin. So both the populations in Anatolia and Armenia are a majority dark featured, having dark hair, dark eyes, and dark skin. And here is another segment in the paper dealing with Armenia, and you can pause to check out the percentages, but basically 0% pale skin in all of them. Again, this is in the yellow box and the red box. And the majority of these ancient Armenian populations have dark hair, black hair, brown eyes, dark skin, dark to black skin, and intermediate skin, and 0 pale skin. So the majority of these old Armenian populations are dark featured. And the same can be said for Turkey or Anatolia. Again, you can pause to look at the percentages, but basically 0% pale skin in ancient Turkey or Anatolia. The majority of the population has dark hair, black hair, brown eyes, dark skin, dark to black skin, and intermediate skin. So again, these populations are dark featured for the most part. And the time frame that these papers are looking at is from the Chalcolithic to the late Bronze Age. If you look and pause at the Armenia, LBA stands for Late Bronze Age. And if you look at the Anatolia, MLBA stands for Middle Late Bronze Age, and CHL stands for Chalcolithic or Copper Age, and MBA stands for Middle Bronze Age. So most of these populations in Armenia and Anatolia, Turkey, from the Chalcolithic to the Middle Bronze Age and the Late Bronze Age, had dark skin, and they did not have pale skin, as well as other dark features such as dark hair and dark eyes. Therefore, I would say that Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were likely intermediate brown and dark to black skin. They also would have dark hair and dark eyes. This basically would fit the description of the ancient Semites. I find it interesting how the depiction of these ancient Semites fit with Lazarus 2022 paper, with much of the Middle East being intermediate brown and dark to black skinned. Furthermore, this fits with the indigenous world skin tone map, with the Middle East populations being light brown, medium brown, dark brown, and black. But this essentially confirms in a roundabout way what early Jewish, Christian, and Muslim writers said about the descendants of Shem, looking light brown, medium brown, dark brown, and even black skin. From Rabbi Eleazar, he blessed Shem and his sons black but comely, and he gave them the inhabitable earth. And from the Persian historian Tabli, born to Noah were Shem, whose descendants' colors are a black complexion with a light brownish undertone and a dark blackish brown. And according to Bar Hebraicus, Shem, the land of the Browns. And according to the history of the messengers and the kings, the children of Shem settled in the center of the earth, which is between Satma and the sea between Yemen and Syria. Allah made the prophets from them, revealed the books to them, made them beautiful, gave them a black complexion, luminous and free of blemish. With that being said, I would say that Joseph's ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, would have looked like these ancient Semites. They would fit within the spectrum of a intermediate brown and dark to black complexion, much like Lazarus 2022 paper and the description of Shem's descendants and the indigenous skin tone map, among other things. But now let's actually focus on Joseph himself. What did he specifically look like? Abraham settled in the land of Canaan in the Middle Bronze Age. Isaac, Jacob, and Joseph were all born in Canaan. According to Lazarus 2022 paper, the population in Canaan at the time was intermediate brown and dark to black skinned. There was zero pale skin in that time. If you look at the chart, the yellow box and the red box, dark hair was at 90.9%, but light hair was at 9.1%. 63.6% had black hair, whereas 2.3% had blonde hair. 34.1% had brown hair, but 0% red hair. 6.8% blue eyes, but 93.2% brown eyes. Now for the skin tone, 38.6% had dark skin, 13.6% had dark to black skin, and 47.7% intermediate skin, and zero pale skin. And again, this is dealing with Levantine populations. Now, if you look at Israel Canaanite MLBA, which stands for Middle Late Bronze Age, Levantine populations in the Middle Late Bronze Age had 100% dark hair and 0% light hair, 71.4% black hair and 0% blonde hair, 28.6% brown hair and 0% red hair and 0% blue eyes, but they had 100% brown eyes. Now as for skin tone, the Levantine populations of the Middle Late Bronze Age had 57.1% dark skin, 14.3% dark to black skin, and 28.6% intermediate skin, and 0% pale skin. Again, these are Levantine populations in the Middle Late Bronze Age, which mostly had dark features. This is the time in which Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Joseph would have lived in. And what's interesting about the description in Lazarus' paper is that there are depictions of people in the land of Canaan around this time. They're clearly depicted with dark skin. Joseph could have looked like this, having dark medium brown skin as well as black hair and dark eyes. Now, another method to determine Joseph's phenotype is by looking at Semitic populations in the land of Egypt during the time of Joseph. How are they depicted by the ancient Egyptians? So here is a Semitic slave from the 12th dynasty of Egypt. Clearly he is dark-skinned, specifically medium brown, and he had black hair and dark eyes. This is how Joseph could have looked when coming into Egypt. Now, another method to determine Joseph's phenotype is by looking at the depiction of the viziers that Joseph may have been. There are several viziers of Egypt that Joseph could have been according to previous videos. So let's look at how they are depicted. Some scholars believe that Joseph could have been Khnum-hotep. Khnum-hotep is clearly depicted dark-skinned with a medium brown complexion, black hair, and dark eyes. So this could be Joseph. We could actually be looking at biblical Joseph. But scholars also say Joseph could have been Sobek-Amhat, and he is also clearly depicted dark-skinned with a medium brown complexion, black hair, and dark eyes. So we could be looking at the biblical Joseph by looking at this stela. Now, the last vizier Joseph could have been is a mysterious statue. There's no true idea of how he could have looked because the face is smashed and the color faded away greatly, but it is believed that this person had yellow skin. Therefore, we may have to look at another group that came into Egypt around this time, an Asiatic group called the Hyksos, who are also depicted with yellow skin. Therefore, another method to determine Joseph's phenotype is by looking at the Hyksos. The Hyksos were depicted by the ancient Egyptians, and clearly these people weren't depicted pale or white-skinned, nor were these people depicted with black skin. The Hyksos were depicted yellow, but obviously humans aren't literally the color yellow. I interpret this yellow color to mean light brown, and here's why. When the Egyptians depicted the Hyksos with this yellow skin, they also depicted the gazelle with a similar color. The type of gazelle these Hyksos have is likely the Dorcas gazelle. The Dorcas gazelle is native to the region of Africa and Arabia. If you look at the Dorcas gazelle, it's clearly light to medium brown. They have a medium brown but a yellowish color. I would say that the Hyksos had a similar skin tone to the fur of the Dorcas gazelle. If you look at the Dorcas gazelle and the Hyksos side by side, they're definitely similar in color. With that being said, the Hyksos also look very similar to populations in the Levant. The Egyptians depicted other people in the Levant with a light brown to medium brown skin, but also with a slight yellowish undertone. But returning to the Hyksos, we're clearly looking at a people that are intermediate brown skinned, ranging from a light brown to a medium brown with a yellowish undertone. With that being said, Joseph and his family could have looked like this, only using populations from the Levant as our representation. Basically, they would range from a light brown to a dark brown and have a yellowish undertone. They would also have black hair and dark brown eyes. And again, the visual representation we are using is only from the Levant if we were to use that perspective. And now let's combine everything that we've covered visually. And basically what we see is what Lazarus 2022 paper illustrated. Joseph, as well as the 70 members of his family, could have looked intermediate brown and dark to black skinned. They would also have black hair and dark brown eyes. And I highly doubt that they would have been pale skinned. And this also happens to fit with what early Jewish, Christian, and Muslim writers described the descendants of Shem: light brown, medium brown, dark brown, and black. Also, this fits with the indigenous skin tone maps, and once you put all the populations together, I believe it's quite obvious that Joseph and his family would have likely been dark-skinned. Hopefully this video was educational and beneficial. Be blessed, and shalom.